Hey folks, it is Patty, and I want to show you a video clip. This was shared on InfoWars. As you can see, Alex Jones is on the screen. But we're going to watch this clip, discuss, and then talk a little bit about how we can respond to this using nature and empowering ourselves. So let's go ahead and watch.
And COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin. What we have seen so far is corporations and governments collecting data about where we go, who we meet, what movies we watch. The next phase is the surveillance going under our skin. We now see mass surveillance systems established even in democratic countries, which previously rejected them. And we also see a change in the nature of surveillance. Previously, surveillance was mainly above the skin. Now it's going under the skin. Governments want to know not just where we go or who we meet. Above all, they want to know what is happening under our skin. What's our body temperature? What's our blood pressure? What is our medical condition? Now humans are developing even bigger powers than ever before. We are really acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction. We are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. I know that in recent years, we saw populist politicians undermining deliberately the trust that people have in important institutions like universities, like respectable media outlets. These populist politicians told people that, say, scientists are this small elite, this.
So he just said, your free will's over, we're scientifically taking you over. And now he says, we must stop them and censor them. They say we want to take over.
So yeah, Yuval, whatever his last name was, I think his first name, Yuval. This is, one of the Satan Klaus minions. And as you heard in that short little video, he basically stated that, and this is something Mark Passio has identified in humanity, that humans are programmable. Humans are a programmable species. So, do we have free will? I believe that free will is ours. And we can look at evidence of that, even in the Bible. Eve biting out of the forbidden apple was her using her own free will. However, just because we as humans have free will doesn't mean that we can do whatever we want. We still must align with natural law. Natural law is our guiding system, and it's really the only truth that we need to adhere to. It's the law of karma, and our actions will have effects, and that's how we come to learn what is right and what is wrong. So morality is not subjective. There is an objective morality. However, we have been limited with what we know. Our DNA has been, like I said, screwed with. And so even though we have free will, we still need to align with natural law. So, are humans programmable? I think we are. I think they are making us more and more programmable with the technology that they require humanity use. I mean, think about, can you do your job without technology? I mean, I'm an educator. I'm a college professor. And unfortunately, I have to use technology. I mean, I could probably teach without technology, and I really would like to try it. Because, back when I was in college, back in the 1990s, my professors, even my biology professors, I mean, they used one of those overhead projectors, oftentimes to show images, because, in the sciences, especially the biological sciences like human anatomy, it's a very visual science. So you need to see pictures of, human cadavers, or, other than that, you're actually, when I was in medical school, dissecting a human being. Other science courses like organic chemistry and other chemistry classes, even biological chemistry, that's all chemical equations that can be written on the chalkboard or the whiteboard. But these days, in the anatomy and physiology courses that I teach, I have to use, pictures, a lot of images. So I'm showing my students like a picture of an organ, and I'm describing the organ, and then I am, explaining its function. So there's a lot of visuals, and I also use a lot of animations, a lot of visual arts to really take home the message. And so in many ways, I think it's easier to understand the sciences with this technology. I'm not denouncing the technology whatsoever, but I am beholden to the technology, because if, the electricity were to go out, I don't think I'd be able to do my job as effectively, or at least in a way that the students have come to expect that I present the material. I could still do it. I know how to draw things pretty well. I've drawn a lot of anatomical structures up on the whiteboard to describe them, and sometimes it's just easier to draw it, right? So where am I going with this? I think, though, in many ways, the technology has programmed humanity. Yes, we can use it for good, but in many ways, it's being used nefariously. It is being used to dumb down people. And not only technology, but also, obviously, what we take in other ways. Food, beverage, those are other ways in which we become programmable. Even the radiation we're surrounded by. Many people say the 5G is something that is affecting us energetically. I mean, we are electrical beings that are affected by other types of electromagnetic radiation that we are surrounded by. And if you read the book or look into the work, the book is called The Invisible Rainbow. And then Tom Cowan wrote a book kind of connected to that, where he explains how many pandemics historically have been connected to these new types of energies that have been unveiled in our world. Like the Spanish flu corresponded to new radio waves now spreading around the planet for the first time in human history, or at least, in the more recent history. Because I do think that, this isn't our first rodeo on this planet for humanity. We've been through all of this before, and I think our time, according to the powers that should not be, is coming to an end. So we know all of this, or at least we are, those of us that are aware and conscious, we are becoming, we're taking heed. We're actually starting to, many people are starting to think about, what can we do? I mean, what should be our response? I mean, this guy, in the video I started out with, is basically telling us that we're programmable. Mark Passio has shared that humanity is a programmable species. And Mark Passio is not telling us this because he's trying to program us. He's warning us. He's been warning. I mean, I first heard Mark Passio say this back in 2012 when I first started listening to his radio show and to his podcast. So he was aware of this. And now, they're bluntly stating that they are controlling us. And how did the powers that should not be control us in the past? Well, they screwed with our DNA. Like I said, the caduceus, the DNA molecule represented by a serpent, a snake wrapped around something, like a pole of some sort. That is representing the DNA double helix. They screw with our genetics. And perhaps they're inserting foreign genetics. There is no such thing as junk DNA that, I was taught about when I was a biology student in high school and in undergrad. Junk DNA, DNA that we have no idea what it does. We don't know what it codes for. It's just there. I mean, do we really think that there is this amazing molecule, DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and we have all of these nucleotide base pairs that are doing nothing? I mean, as I mentioned in other videos, scientists were perplexed when, after the Human Genome Project was completed, we only had maybe 25,000 genes that coded for proteins. They assumed that we must have hundreds of thousands of genes because humans are so complex. We have, on the low end, about 500 more genes than C. elegans, which is a roundworm. Do you really think that is true for humanity? So this junk DNA, what I think it is, I think it's screwed up or messed with or rearranged nucleotides that have diminished the human expression. I think humanity, maybe in a prior incarnation, had the capacity for certain things that we are no longer able to do. And can we still do it? I think we can, and I think certain humans can. I mean, look at people like Rudolf Steiner. He was clairvoyant. And he shared things like, the history of humanity and, kind of what humans need to evolve, the threefold human being or the fourfold human being. I have to go back and reread my Steiner, but a lot of what he shared with the world came from a knowing that he was privileged to. So what can we do to protect our free will? Because we do have it, but we are programmed. How can we protect our free will? Well, the first thing I think we need to do is to stop depending on what the system that's trying to kill us is giving us. When we become dependent on the system, we're basically taking their poison. So one way in which I think, what I try to do in my work is I am a naturopath and I really love the herbs. I have this document, as you can see, and I shared a couple of herbs on this past Friday during my live stream event. I talked about cayenne pepper and I talked about burdock root. Cayenne pepper, amazing herb, used in emergency situations. It can affect our blood vessels, blood flow. It heals the heart. It can stop a heart attack. So, if you're having those symptoms of a heart attack, I would definitely keep some cayenne tincture on hand. You can take a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, make sure it's organic, add it to some warm water, and start sipping it if you start feeling those chest pains. The chest pain, in males, it's more commonly expressed as like pain in the chest going up the left side of the neck, into the left jaw and the left arm. For females, the symptoms can be a little bit more different. Females are a little different in their expression of their symptoms. But cayenne pepper, many herbalists have saved people's lives. It also coagulates blood, so if somebody's hemorrhaging, pour some cayenne pepper, a tincture or the powder into the wound that is gushing out blood. It will coagulate that blood immediately. Again, beautiful herb for emergencies. Burdock root, has many properties. I talked a little bit about this, and here we're looking at another kind of like burdock root. This is stinging nettle. Stinging nettle. This is what it looks like. You can see a little bit about nettles. They do sting, so when you're handling them, it can be kind of painful. When you do prepare them herbally, you basically, the stinging goes away. So it's not like you're going to be drinking something that's going to sting you as you swallow it. But it is a nutritive tonic. It's a nutrition powerhouse. And I think stinging nettle tea is a great tonic to drink. And you can drink it every day. It's one of those kind of herbs that, some herbs you don't want to drink every day. But stinging nettle you can. And it helps to, build the blood, strengthens bones and teeth, nourishes our cells. It's a beautiful anti-inflammatory and antihistamine. Obviously, it's a green plant, so it's going to have the chlorophyll in it. Green plants are wonderful for alkalizing and actually calming inflamed tissues. I'm big on the fruit, but if somebody's very acidic, very inflammatory, I would recommend, really getting a good juicer, getting like a single auger juicer where it really mushes and squeezes that green juice out of the leaf and pours it into, what will be your cup of green juice. And, you can cut the green juices with maybe an apple so that it's not so bitter. But the bitters, that bitter property of many of the green plants, very great for the digestion. Like dandelion, dandelion root especially. It's a bitter herb, and the bitters help with digestion. I don't have dandelion up right now, but I was helping a client the other day, and, she had a lot of bloating issues after she ate carbohydrates. Well, if you take 15 minutes before you eat, if you take some bitters, and you can find these at your health food store, I have these digestive bitters that it's kind of a spray, and you can just spray it underneath your tongue. And it contains a lot of the herbs I just mentioned, like dandelion and what else is in there? Ginger, fennel. It's a mixture. It's a little mixture spray, herbal solution. And again, 15 minutes before you eat, what it does is it helps to prepare your digestive organs for receiving the food so that you are better able to break those foods down. When you can't break the foods down and they're sitting there in the stomach or sitting there in the intestinal tract because they're not broken down, they can't be absorbed. And if you have weak bowels, you're probably not removing them that easily in your feces. They're going to start to ferment if it's a carbohydrate food, or it's going to start to putrefy if it's a protein food. So this is what happens with the foods we cannot digest completely. And, not only are we not getting the nutrition and the benefits of that food when we don't break them down, but the gases that are byproducts of fermentation or putrefaction end up filling our intestinal tract and stomach, and it causes bloating and gas and all of those discomfort types of symptoms that people get. And I think a lot of people getting these more often, especially because, a lot of the carbohydrates that we consume are very shitty. Polysaccharides, and even, obviously animal proteins too. These are all complex molecules. This is why the fruit is so beautiful. So I highly recommend, eating nothing but fruit as if you're trying to heal, because that will really give your digestive system a break. Because it's not hard to break down fruit because it comes packaged with a lot of monomeric types of molecules, amino acids, monosaccharides like glucose and fructose. It might have some sucrose like sugarcane, but sucrose is a disaccharide, which is easily broken down by our brush border enzymes. But anyway, coming back to stinging nettles, it has the chlorophyll because it is a green plant. And keep in mind, these herbs are plants. They're whole foods. Stinging nettle is anti-inflammatory. And this person that wrote this, giving credit to her, this is Ariel de Martinez. She writes that it helps with puffy joints, GI issues, that could be more inflammation, uterine issues, urinary health. It helps with red itchy eyes, sinus issues. So we're seeing here that stinging nettle classified as a diuretic, so it's very helpful for the kidneys. And as we know, the kidneys, they eliminate internal waste products. Waste products that come from our cells that need to exit through our bodily fluids. So anything that our cells are releasing or anything that our cells couldn't take in, but it is congestive. And when you are eating a high fruit diet, especially with, some of those lymphatic herbs, which are very astringent, you're going to be pulling all of that stuff out of your interstitial spaces, and you need a way for it to get to your kidneys, because the kidneys, they detoxify our bodily fluids, and they remove what is ever in our bodily fluids, our blood and our lymph, and remove it and put it into the urine. So the urine is what your body is getting rid of that used to be inside of your interstitial spaces and perhaps even in your cells. And then we also classify stinging nettle as an alterative. Alteratives, they help to support the body's natural processes. They help to restore proper elimination and other functions. And they restore vitality in the body. So, not only is stinging nettle an alterative, but burdock root, which I talked about Friday, cleavers, echinacea, Oregon grapefruit, other examples of alteratives. So these are just herbal classes. Other types of herbal classes are aromatics, like the mint family, adaptogenic herbs, like ashwagandha, which help to keep the, how do I say it? Like ashwagandha could be good for stress, but it could also be good for depression. So it's helping to bring balance emotionally. That's what adaptogenic herbs are. And then I mentioned the bitters. They help to, strengthen appetite and strengthen the digestive process. There are also nervines. That's a class of herbs which these are very helpful for pain, and they also support the nervous system. They calm the nervous system, and they help, people with sleep. So like chamomile is a nervine, hops, kava, lavender, lemon balm. So herbs. What I'm getting to is with the herbs, this is how we empower ourselves. This is how we're not taking what the people like Satan Klaus and his little minions and Kill Gates, we're not taking what they're offering to us. We're not taking their poison. We are empowering ourselves and using nature, which has come from a power much stronger and actually, I think, closer to true human roots, who we really are. And we're using that to heal. And it really comes down to a mindset. We have to want to heal. We have to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to heal. And I'm not going to take their poison. I'm not going to go to the hospital. And I'm not going to, get hooked up with any kind of machine. So anyway, I'm really passionate about herbs. So here is a great herbalist, Sovereign Beauty and Wellness. You can check out her work, Herb of the Month, that I have a little pamphlet for. And you can learn about herbs, take an herbal class. In my videos on Fridays, I'm going to start really, bumping up the discussion of herbs, because I want to help people learn how to grow their own herbs and grow the herbs that you're going to use as food and as medicine, true medicine. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. We are sovereign beings. We do have free will. Do not let them program you. Do not let them inject into you anything to disrupt or interfere with your genetic expression of who you are. And don't let them confuse you about how, you can be something that you're not. I mean, we still have to be true to who we are as far as what our true genetics are. You know, do you have an XY combination or an XX combination, if you know what I mean about gender? I don't mind if people want to, you know, if you're an adult, you can do whatever you want to. I support that. Everybody has the free will to make those decisions. All I question is, were you programmed in any way, shape, or form to want something that truly is not in your best interest? Or maybe you don't really want, but you think you want it because it's, you know, the in thing. It's what they're telling you as a child when you're in school. You know, there's a lot of evil things out there. Anywho, I'm going to stop here because I don't want to make this video too long. And plus, I want to watch Mark Passio's podcast in about 30 minutes. So take care, everyone. Bye.